Republicans find themselves with a wide-open challenge that some believe could be exactly what they need. A candidate who insists he can go it alone and doesn't need their money, leaving them free and clear to worry about the down-ticket races and put more cash into local elections. Why would that offer drive a new line of fear into GOP hearts? Righteous anger is top of the list for those wondering why the 9/11 calls of the Orlando killer were so heavily redacted. The Attorney General says there's no need to further his propaganda, and the words are unimportant. But late today, the FBI turned the tables on the AG. Plenty of experts are convinced that if the United Kingdom does indeed leave the European Union, it will have no dangerous effect and is exactly what Britain and the world needs right now. Plenty of evidence telling the experts how wrong they are. We present the evidence. You get to drop your dime. Get on the line right now. Be part of the conversation on the only network that gives you such an opportunity. 1-877-Newsmax. 1-877-639-7629 is where you need to be. Don't miss your calling. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Monday, June 20th, 2016.
Kendal Unruh is on a mission.
This truly has to happen this way. We're not destroying the party, we're saving the party.
The Colorado Delegate is also a government teacher. She spent more than 30 years in the Republican Party and says she's always been a good soldier. That was until Donald Trump became her party's presumptive nominee. But when he criticized Judge Curiel and mocked a reporter with disabilities,
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
What that said to me was it went beyond just the juvenile tactics he was employing.
Now, Unruh says she wants to change convention rules to include a conscience clause, allowing delegates bound to Trump to vote against him.
Trump, the transcripts, and possibly paying and playing chicken with tax laws. Buckle up. Let's go ahead and get to it. First up, they are determined. They are making noise, and they believe what they are doing is exactly what the nation and the Republican Party needs right now. Stop blindly lining up behind a charlatan and carpetbagger who will drag the party into the gutter. But they are being hammered by the people in charge of the Republican National Committee and millions of people who have already cast their vote in the primary, characterizing them as nothing more than posers and hacks who need to shut up, take their medicine, and get in line to beat Hillary Clinton. They are the latest group to believe they are saving the GOP in America by standing up against Donald Trump. Free the delegates is what they call themselves, now calling for donations to raise money for staff and a possible legal defense fund to stop Donald Trump cold. This comes as the Trump campaign dumps one of the more public and loyal staffers, an internal shakeup that hints with no evidence whatsoever that the Trump campaign is ready and able to make their pivot to a national ground game. And while Trump continues to dominate the minute-by-minute news cycle, the matter of transcripts from the Orlando mass murder continue the firestorm there about what we as Americans need to hear and when. Some questions for you. Are you in favor of an anti-Trump movement? Why should they fear if Trump does indeed do it on his own, continue driving the steamroller? And why do you believe a complete, unedited transcript from Orlando is imperative to what the public needs to know? Get on the line now. Be ready to have a take. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629. All right, first up, let's deal the cards. He is president of Club for Growth, the conservative political organization that is on record noting Donald Trump should not be taken seriously, David McIntosh. Joined by the nationally recognized economist, University of Maryland professor of business, and syndicated columnist Peter Morici. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Let's go ahead and get to work. David, let me begin with you. It came out late today. The U.S. Justice Department and the FBI took the full transcript of the phone conversation between the Orlando, Florida shooter and 911 police operators. This after the Attorney General said and basically put out a redacted version. People screamed. They said, we need to see everything here. David, why is it so important that we see and hear everything? Because Loretta Lynch even said, we don't want to help this guy's cause any. Why do we need to put certain words in there to basically help make a martyr out of him? Your go.
Well, this isn't particularly an area the Club for Growth specializes in, but I have a great deal of confidence in the FBI. I think they know which things need to be reacted to protect law enforcement agents in the future. And beyond that, the public should know what happened. Was this an act of terror? And was this guy giving them evidence that he's a terrorist or perhaps even had affiliation with other terror groups? So I think the FBI is a trusted agency that knows how to handle it.
David, I appreciate that, and we are going to get to Club for Growth stuff in a moment, but simply because this is what's breaking here today, I did want to make sure that we allowed you to weigh in on this. Peter, let me come to you with exactly the same question. The transcripts are out right now. Why is it so important that the American people see every single word?
I don't think it's really all that important that the American people see every single word, because we really know the stuff is in there. They told us what they're redacting, even if they didn't put out the exact words. However, the whole purpose of terrorism is to disrupt our lives. And the Democrats that run this country are doing a very good job of letting them do that. For example, restricting gun rights. This is the worst possible time to do that in reaction to an act by a terrorist who, could get a hold of a gun anyway, whatever the law is. Now, keeping us from knowing what we should know, it's kind of a freedom of speech thing, the freedom to know, a free press and so forth. We really don't want to be curtailing that in response to these nuts. This administration seems to think, if it carefully uses words, doesn't say Islamic terrorist, if it holds back some of the things these people say about us, that somehow or other that is going to limit their recruitment. If that were the case, we'd know by now. We wouldn't have San Bernardino, and we wouldn't have Orlando. This man's magnifying glass, the president, is on our gun rights, when it really should be on his failed policy to combat terrorism and secure us.
I just want to point out, too, that Speaker Paul Ryan today issued this statement regarding this entire issue here, talking about selectively editing the transcript. He called it preposterous. We know the shooter was a radical Islamist extremist. There are the words that people believe we should use over and over again. He points out the administration should release the full unredacted transcript. We now have that thanks to the Justice Department and the FBI. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on. Let me go ahead and get to your bailiwick in here, David. Again, part of what we're discussing here, top of the news here tonight. The group now calling itself Free the Delegates. These are the people who say, look, it's time. We need to make sure that all the delegates, no matter who they were assigned to in the primary, need to now get a chance to change their vote for whomever they want. Now, as I said, the Club for Growth is very anti-Trump. So I guess the big question here is, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it can work? And aren't we still basically banging our heads up against what will happen with the RNC? They say we're not going to change the rules. So isn't this just an exercise in futility?
Well, let me say you're absolutely right. We in the primaries felt that Trump was not the conservative nominee that we needed and could have. We supported Ted Cruz and thought he was a better choice. I think what's happened is Trump won those primaries, has the delegates that are bound. Speaker Ryan said, let people vote their conscience. But I think the best thing for us, and we're focusing very much on the Senate and House races, the best thing for us in that area is to have it settled, move forward with the campaign. A lot of our members are saying we weren't necessarily for Trump, but he's better than Hillary, so let's make sure we get a chance at victory in the fall. I think the more we see the effort to focus on getting Republicans to vote whatever they think of Donald Trump, so that we don't lose those Senate and House races, places like Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, Johnson in Wisconsin, the open seat in Florida, the open seat in Louisiana. Those are going to be critical, whoever becomes president, for the future of the country.
So let me just make sure, because Club for Growth poured about $11 million reportedly into the effort to basically stop Donald Trump at one point. Are you saying now that the Club for Growth supports Donald Trump for president?
No, what we're saying is the primaries are over, the party has its process. From our standpoint, neither of the candidates are somebody we would support, but we're not opposed to Donald Trump anymore. So let's move forward and focus on the Senate and House races. If Donald Trump, can run a strong top of the ticket, that'll help other Republicans.
1-877 Newsmax if you want to join us with your take on this. Peter, very briefly to you on this. Do the people behind the Free the Delegates, do they need to basically have somebody in a position of power, reince priebus somebody, and say, look, shut up, sit down, get in line, or else you're going to get stuck with Hillary? Maybe say that out loud. Is that ever going to work?
I think right now, establishment Republicans are conceding the election. By focusing on House and Senate seats, what they're saying is, we're going to control the Congress and we'll use that to deal with Hillary. And I think there's good reason to believe that that is a sound strategy. Right now, Trump is falling in the polls. And it's not just his comments about the Mexican judge or handicapped people. Let's consider the last week where we had this terrorist assault and his response. Now, in the Monday morning polls, his response to what was a very lame Obama administration response was not very effective. He continues to sink in the polls. This was a big opportunity for him to talk about what he would do about terrorism, what he would do about national security, and he struck out. And what we're seeing is that Donald Trump is not capable of really running a national campaign and running against Hillary Clinton. So what Republicans are doing is saying, well, look, we can't field another candidate, and they really can't. So we're just going to focus on holding the Congress. And I think, that's the message that we're getting. And by the way, one of the big reasons they have to take that strategy is, suppose you freed the delegates. Who would they nominate? None of the candidates really caught fire with the American people. None of them were really found to be terribly attractive, even if you subtracted Donald Trump. And this is a basic flaw in the Republican Party, holding so many state houses and having so many senators. It doesn't seem to be able to field someone who can make a compelling message about why conservative principles should run the country. I think it's very sad being a conservative.
It is right now. It's got a lot of people confused about their conservatism. I only got 60 seconds left. Real briefly, Corey Lewandowsky was fired today as campaign manager for Donald Trump. Peter, the Lewandowski firing, what does that tell you about what's going on inside the Trump campaign?
Well, he should be fired, but the question is who will replace him and will Donald listen to him? I don't think so. We're not seeing any indication that Donald is reaching out to experts of any kind to establish a credible national campaign.
All right, I come to you then on the same thing, David, because quite frankly, a Trump advisor tweeted out later, ding dong, the witch is dead. They're making fun of him. Lewandowski says, I'm still loyal. 20 seconds to you. What does this tell you about what's happening inside the campaign?
I suspect their response is indicating what we thought all along, which is Trump isn't as conservative as he was projecting to be in the primaries. His record shows actually is fairly liberal on a lot of things. Now he's retooling with a team that's more comfortable with the liberal Donald Trump.
And we're going to find out exactly what happens from here, because apparently the family was not too happy with it, and Donald Trump said, you're fired. And again, we'll probably be using that two-line sentence a long time coming up between now and November. Peter Morici, David McIntosh, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you both soon. Lost in all this political discourse is what Republicans want to see done with the economy. That, believe it or not, yes, the economy's still out there. That and a whole lot more when Grover Norquist joins us next, right here on The Hardline.